Today's daf is Masechta Sota Daf Mem Aleph. We are on the bottom of Mem Beis, the second to last line in the middle of the line. The Gemara asks Meisves. The Gemara just finished saying that the Kriya was in the Ezos Nashim, and that's why it was mentioned that Kohen Gadol has to stand up to Kabul Sefer Torah. The Gemara Kasha was, why was he sitting in the Chayr in Yeshiva Ba'azar? The Gemara said no, it was in Ezos Nashim. That's where it was done. Over there it's mutter to sit. Zok the Gemara, Frek the Gemara, Meisvei, we learned in the Bryce Lagabi Kriya that the Melech does in the Parsha of Hakel. Vehechan Kairim Boy, it says, where does the Melech read in the Torah? Tanakama says, Ba'azara and Azara. So the Gemara understands that in the Azara we do that avodah. Lazim Yaakov Omer, Bahar Abayis, we read in the Har Abayis. It says in the Kriya of Ezra Asayf and Nehemiah Parak Ches Pasuk Gimel, Vayikra Boy Lefnei Harchoy Vashal Lefnei Sha'ar Mayim. So you see, according to the Tanakama, the Kriya was in the Azara, and Kriya's Kadol Yom Kippurim was there. So the Chayr Shver, how is he able to sit down, the Kohen Gadol? So the Gemara's kasha from the Tanakama. It says clear, V'hechan Kairim Ba'azara. Zok the Gemara, Amar Rav Chizda, Be'ezos Nashim. Ba'azara means Ezos Nashim. That's the kavanah of the Gemara of the Bryce Gemara. Tanakama. Zok the Gemara, the Mishnah said, V'koirei Acher Mois, reads the parasha of Acher Mois, and then he skips over and reads Ach Ba'asar. Frek the Gemara, V'Raminu, it says in Megillah Chavdal Manal, Medalgin bin Navi, you're allowed to skip from parsha to parsha in Navi, but you're not allowed to skip in Torah. So how was the Kohen able to skip? Zok the Gemara, Amar Abai, Loi Kasha, it's not shver. Kan in Megillah, it's also Medalag, it's one of the parashas that are far from each other, B'chdei Sheyifsaik, where you would have to be Megalgol, the Sefer Torah, you'd have to make a hefsek and start rolling up a Sefer Torah to turn to the correct place. So then, in that case, Yifsek HaTurgaman, the Turgaman would have to stop, and the tzibur would have to wait, and it's not covered in tzibur. But Kan, where it's mutter to skip from Acher Mois to Ach Ba'asar, L'chdei Shel Yifsek HaTurgaman. In that case, the Turgaman would not have to be mafsek. So frek the Gemara v'halok tani on the Issa in Dilig in Gemara Megillah, it says in the Hemshcha Mishnah Medalgam and Navi and Medalgam and Torah. By Kam Medalgam Navi and how much Kim Medalgam and Navi Akashe Shli Yifsek Am Turgaman until as much that the Turgaman not have to mafsek. So it's meduyik that Bechlal the Torah Klal Loi. Even if the Turgaman doesn't have to mafsek, Masha you can't be Medalag at all. And for the Gemara, Elamar Bai, Loi Kasha, Kan, it's talked about different parts. Over here, we can dalig the parashas be Indian Echad. It's talking about one Indian, Yom Kippur, and therefore you could be medalig if the Meturgam does not have Tebasa. But Kan, in Megillah, it's talking about when it's two Inyanim. Two Inyanim, you can't be mafsek, even if you can't be medalig, even if the Meturgam doesn't have to be mafsek. So in other words, we only makbatim medalig, even in a case where there's no hefsek. There's only when it's one Inyan. That's when we said he can medalig. Zok the Gemara weiter, v'atanya, and the raya to this consider medalig of Torah bin in echad. Says in the Brayso, you could medal the entire one Inyan, but Navi Vishnei Inyanim, you can even in two Inyanim you could, because there's no mitzvahs in the Torah. We're not worried about dilug. The whole issue is that maybe if you're going to skip and there's going to be, because there's mitzvahs in the Torah, maybe you won't understand them and you'll be over on the mitzvahs. But Navi Vishnei Inyanim, and both of them, sign of and sign the Torah, it should not be a hefsek of the Turgaman. Navi, and still you can't Navi from, let's say, Navi Yeshaya to Yirmiyah, because you have this Tiras Adas, too much Tiras Adas, and Navi Shoshanim Asar, and all Navim of Shnei Masar Nevi'im is considered one Navi, Umedalgan, and in that case you could be Medalgan if you Navi Navi. But you should not go backwards from the end of the Sefer to the beginning. Zakting Maravaita, the Mishnah said, Vengoylos Atayr, he rolls up the Sefer Torah, Nicha Becheke, he puts it in his lap, and he says, Yoisim Remasha Karisi Lefnechem, Kosav Kan. Zakting Gemara, why does he have to announce that? I'll Sefer Torah, not to be Moitzilaz al Sefer Torah, because they're going to see him reading about Asar, Baal Peh, so they're going to say it's not written in the Sefer Torah, and that the Sefer Torah is Pagam, it's missing something. Therefore, he makes that announcement that it is written, and this said he's not reading it inside is for reasons that we're going to explain later. Zaktim Marvait, and the Mishnah said about Asar Shabachumash Abakudim in Midbar, Kair Al Peh reads about Peh. For the Gemara, why does he read about Peh? Let him read up roll up a Sefer Torah, look at a Sefer, and let him roll a Sefer Torah until that parish and a Chumash in Ba'asar and Bamidbar. V'likri, let him read it. Because it's not covered at Tzibur that the whole Tzibur should wait to be Gola Sefer Torah. In fact, the Gemara believes Sefer Torah Achvina. Bring another Sefer Torah that they got ready before davening, and it's already set up to Asar and Chumash HaPekud and V'likri. Read from that. And for the Gemara of Huna Bar Yehuda Amar, Huna says, you don't bring another Sefer Torah that's already set to that place because it became of the first Sefer. People are going to say the first one's possible. Shimon Laka says, you don't make a bracha she'en tzricha, because if you take out an additional Sefer Torah, you're going to have to make a second bracha on that Sefer Torah, and you can go a bracha she'en tzricha. So therefore, just read about Peh, and you'll still be yotze with the first bracha. And you won't have to make another bracha. Are you choishish taka in such a case of gam in the first Sefer Torah? Amar Yitzchak Nafcha says Rosh Chodesh Teves, which is on Chanukah, that's Chal on Shabbos, maybe Shalish Torahs. You take out 3 Sefer Torahs from the arm. The Korah Achas Min Yoshem. One you read Parashat Shavua, which is you read that week Shabbos. The Achas you read Rosh Chodesh. The Achas of Chanukah. And one you read Parashat Chanukah. So it's muchal in not choishish that people are going to say the first Sefer Torah is Pagim, because you bring out 3 Sefer Torahs in this case. And for the Gemara, Tlas Agav B'Tlas Sifri. When you read 3 people and 3 Sefer Torahs, there's no Pagam, because everyone's going to say that each person wants to read in the Sefer Torah that is most chav to him. But Chag Gamer B'Trei Sifri, when one person reads in 2 Sefer Torahs, it could Pagama, because people think that the first one's Pagum, and that's why that same Balkara went ahead and read from another Sefer Torah. It says in the Mishnah, Shemaina brachas. After the Torah, after Kriya, he reads 8 brachas. Zakti Gemara, the Mishnah, the Brisa says, Tanar Rabbanim, Varchan al Torah, Kederech Shemarchem Beis HaKnesses, just like you make a bracha Beis HaKnesses after Kriya. You make Asher Nosan, Lana Torah Sames, Chandam Tzachim. Val avoida, val aidah, machilas avain, melch mevusleach, ketiknon, just like in tefillah. Al mikdash b'fnei atzmai, al kehanim b'fnei atzman, al yisrael b'fnei atzman, and yishlayim b'fnei atzman. Zakti Gemara, the Mishnah says, ashar tefillah, Tanu Rabbanan, ashar tefillah, meaning techina rina bakasha. It's techina rina bakasha, sha'amcha yisrael tzrichin livasha. You say your nation Yisrael needs to be helped. The choisim shemei tefillin, chois shemei tefillin. Kaveh elach after the brachas kol achav echad maybe Sefer Torah nech beisai. Every person from the tzibur brings a Sefer Torah from his house. The korah and reads Parashat Yom. Kol kach lama. Why do they bring svarim? Why don't they just read in the house? Because haras chazusai l'rabim, to show the niceness of, to show the beauty of a Sefer Torah to the public, to mekayim what it says. Shmois Paraktas V'Pasuk Beis Zekilo Aveyu, and we darshan Gemara Nazir Beis Beis a snal b'mitzvahs b'Sefer Torah na. One of the ways you make you mekayim Zekilo Aveyu is by making a nice Sefer Torah. So if you show it to people b'Rabim, Zakti Gemara, you mekayim Zekilo Aveyu by showing it, not by just having it in the house. Zakt the Mishnah, weiter a new Mishnah. So, in the beginning of the parak, we discussed the parasha of the Melech, that it said B'Lashon HaKodesh. So, when the Melech reads the Mishnah Torah to the whole on Sukkot after Shemitah, that's when the Kriya takes place. So the Torah doesn't say who the Kaira is, and we darshan that the Malach is the Kaira. So the Mishnah is going to explain the inyanim of the Kriya. So the Sifri darshan Shoiftim Parakid Zayin on the pasuk with Kosav Lois Mishnah Torah Devarim Parakid Zayin pasuk Yidches. So you see the Melech has to write the whole Torah. So Rashi says it's going on Hakel, and by Hakel is done while the Melech. So that's how we know that the Melech is the Kairi. So let's see, Zakta Mishnah. Pashas HaMelech Ketzad. How is it read? Moitzi Yantav Arisha Shal Chag. Moitzi Yantav Arisha of Sukkot, B'Shmini, on the 8th year of Shemitah year, which is Moitzi Shvius. Hoya Oisel Noi Bima. They would make a Bima Shal Eitz Bazara, they make like a high platform, a bima. For who Yeshiv Alea, and he would sit in it so that everybody could hear him. So he's higher up. And we now Shenemar, and how do we know that this is time for Kriya? Like Mishnah Shenemar, it says in Pasuk Devarim, Parak Lamed Aleph, Pasuk Yud, Miketz Sheva Shanim B'Moyed. So this pasuk is in Devarim, Parak Lamed Aleph, pasuk Yud. It says V'yitzav Moshe Sumleim Miketz Sheva Shanim B'Moyed Shenas Hashmita B'Chag HaSukkos. So after the 7th year, when the 8th year starts, and it still didn't finish Shemitah yet, so that's when you do the Kriya. So Chazan HaKnesses, the Chazan that's appointed to get everything ready to basic Knesses, the Gabbai kind of Noitel Sefer Torah, he takes the Sefer Torah, place when Noitel Rosh HaKnesses, he gives it to the Gabbai. Well, the Chazan HaKnesses seems more like the person in charge of the basic Knesses, and then he takes it and gives it to the Rosh HaKnesses, which is, okay, I guess it's more the person that makes decisions for the whole shul, which is, let's say, I guess the Rav or the Gabbai, you call him. The Rosh HaKnesses Noitel Skan, and the Rosh HaKnesses gives it to the Skan that's appointed sub kohen in case the kohen gets pasul. Skan is the kohen gadol. Skan gets the kohen gadol. Kohen gadol is the melech, is the king. Melech in mekabel is mekabel sefer Torah koirei yoshiv, and then he reads it sitting down. Zakta Mishnah. There was a story with Agrivas HaMelech. He's from a descendant of Hordus. Amar the Kibel Vakara Oimed. He's mekabel sefer Torah, and he read it standing up, even though it was mutter for a melech to read it sitting down. V'shibchuhu chachamim, and the chacham praised him because he was mechaber Torah. Shegia loisucha lasas alecha ishnachi, when he got up to the kriya, to the pasuk where it says loisucha lasas alecha ishnachi, zol goin of the mois. His eyes started tearing because he was from the descent of Hordus that was an Eved, and he's pasul to be a king, a melech technically. Amrullah, so the Yidden told him, Atasyari agrifas, achinu ata. They told him, don't be scared of agrifas. You're our brother because your mother was Yisrael, and you're not an Eved, and you're kosher for Malchus. That was that mice. Zokta Mishavayte v'koyer metchilas ela advarim. Reason from the beginning of Chumash ela advarim ad Shema until he reads until Shema v'Shema, and he says Shema to Mekavel Malch Shemaim, and then he skips and he reads v'Hoyam Shemaya Kabbalas Al Mitzvahs, which is in Dvarim Paragid Al Pasuk Gimel. And then he skips and he goes to Aser Ta'aser, which is Dvarim Paragid Al Pasuk Chavez, because Sukkot is Mana Osif, they gather all the crops, and the time is Matnas Aniyim in terms of Maisis, and then he skips and he goes to Kisavoy and he reads in Dvarim Paragid Chavav Pasuk Yud Beis, where it says Ki Chesa'al Al Aser, so Bir Maisis, and he goes back to Parashat Shoiftim in Paragid Zayin Pasuk Yud Dalid, and he reads the Parashat HaMelech. He reads the Parashat HaMelech, the Brachas HaKlalos, until he finishes the whole Parsha. Zok the Gemara weiter. Zok the Gemara. The Mishnah said that Kriyas HaMelech is a Shmini. So it said, Maitzi Yom Tov Chag b'Shmini. So what does it mean, Shmini? Gemara wants to know. So Gemara's understanding is Shmini Atzaros. So Shmini, that's Lashon Zachar, Pashas is going on a day and not on a year, which is Lashon Nekeva. That's sort of the Gemara's understanding, it's going on a day, which is Shmini Atzaros. So for more of a Shmini Salka Daitach, the Chayr is Maitzi Yom Tov Rishon. It's not Shmini Atzaros. It's the Maitzi the first day is of Sukkot. Like the Gemara, it means the Shminis is Lashon Nekeva, and what the Mishnah is trying to say, it goes on the Shminis, the 8th year, which is after Shemitah. Zakti Gemara, weiter, v'chahani lameli. So it says on the pasuk, K'etz Sheva Shana, Moed Shnas HaShmita, v'chag HaSukkos, v'boy Kol Yisrael. So Shaila Gemara is, what do you need to have these 4 simonim? K'etz Sheva Shana, Moed Shashmita, v'chag HaSukkos, v'boy Kol Yisrael. So why does that say all these things? Chahani lameli. The Gemara tzrichid. Ikaz Rachmana miketz. If it only says K'etz Sheva Shana and Nashnas HaShmita, Havim Nimni Mahasha. I might think that they should start counting the years as soon as they're netztava, v'afagav lo misrami b'shmita. And even though it's not the yitzur, that it might not actually be shmita. Why? Because they really didn't count shmita the first 14 years that it came into Eretz Yisrael until after Kibbush v'chiluk. The first 7 years they were kovish, and then they captured, and then afterwards they split it to the Shvatim. But in those years, there weren't no Shemitah. So that's why it says, so if it would just say, Miketz Sheva Shana, not Shemash HaShemitah, Havamina, Nimim HaShtav, Avgam L'Misrami V'Shemitah. Even though it's really technically the first 14 years in the Gezrut. So that's why it says, Kasra Chamana, Shnas HaShemitah, to tell you that you only count this halacha that we're talking about here. The Kriya is only when there is actual Shemitah being Naig. Because Rachmana Shemitah, if the Torah writes Shemitah, Havamina, that the mitzvah is B'soy Shemitah, on the end of the year Shemitah. So that's why it says, Kas Rachmana Mamayid, this man is in the Chag on Yontif. So Behechach that it's Shminis. Because at the end of Shemitah, there's no Chag. It's still the 7th year. If it only says Moyed and not B'chag HaSukkos, Havamina Merei Shata, I would think Moyed is going on Rosh Hashanah. That's why it says Kas Rachmana B'chag HaSukkos. I know this man is the 8th year on Yontif B'chag HaSukkos. Isa Kas Rachmana B'chag HaSukkos and not B'boy Kol Yisrael. Havamina Afilu Yom Tov Achron. You can even do it in Yom Tov Achron in the second days of Yom Tov. Kas Rachmana B'boy Kol Yisrael. So you learn out Maschalta the Moyed from the beginning of Regal, which that's when everyone comes. Liris Panei Hashem. Regal. And really you should have read it on the first day. It's only because on Yontif you're not allowed to build a bima because it's not Teichi Yontif, and therefore you read it Maitzi Yontif Rishon. Zok the Gemara weiter. So the Mishnah said the Chazan HaKnesses Neidel Sefer Torah, he takes it and gives it to the Rosh HaKnesses. And then Rosh HaKnesses, the one that makes the decisions for the Beis HaKnesses, gives it to the Skan, and Skan to Kohen Gadol Melech. So the Gemara understands the reason is why you give it to all these people, why it goes to all these people, to mechak them covered, to give them covered. It's Machlokas the Gemara Dami Rom and Babasa Daf Kufi Testament days, if you chok and cover Talmud with Makam Arav or not. So meaning a Talmud that's Mechamed a Talmud that's greater than him in front of that the second Talmud's Rav, is considered a zilzol in the cover of the Rav. So, Frek the Gemara, Shmami, no, we see from here, from this that the Chazan does not give the Sefer straight to the Melech, rather he gives it to Rosh Knesset, to Skan, and then the Skan to the Kohen Gadol. We see that Chok and cover the Talmud, Makam Rav, he could give cover to the Talmud in front of the Rav. Because the Rosh Knesset and the Skan and the Kohen Gadol are considered Talmidim, like Klapi the Melech. And he's still mechamed them until it's a sefer before the melech. So it's shver on the das hachayv. Then ein chok kavod l'talmud makam rav. So Amar Abaya answered, no, about the ein chok kavod l'talmud makam rav. And this you give the sefer. It's not because you're trying to give him covered. Rather, kulam mishum kavod in the melech. It's all steps to show the melech more and more covered. First you give it to the lower, and then a little higher, until he reaches the melech. So it shows chashivas that you jump up different dargas in order to get to the melech. Zok Gemara Vayta Melech Oim Makabel v'Karav Yoshev. Melech Oim Makabel and it's Karav Yoshev. Agree with Melech Oim v'Kibel v'Karav. Oim read it standing. The Mishnah said. So Gemara's Medayik. From this side it says Oimid and it's Makabel Sevitor Mechlal the Yoshev. Mashu is sitting before that. And even if it's not from Malchus Beis David, like the Ma'aseh Agrifas, where you see who he was Mizera Hordus, you see that he was standing before that. Frankly, Gemara Amar. It's Masha was sitting before that. Frankly, Amar Mar Ein Yeshiva Ba'Zara Elo Malchus Davad. Only Malchus Beis David, Malchus Beis David is allowed to sit. So how is someone a Melech from Zara Hordus able to sit? And what's the Makar that Malchus Beis David is allowed to sit? Because it says Shenemar Shmuel par example Pasuk says Vayomer Melech David Vayeshev V'nei Hashem Vayomer, and he said Vayomer Mi Anochi Hashem Elokim and Mi Beisi Kavesani Ad Haloim. So he said, so although this makam was of Fnei Hashem and Hakadosh Zara, David was mutter to sit there, but everyone else, even a melech that's not Mizar David, was also to sit there. So the shaila is, how is everyone else? How are they able to sit? And for the Gemara, no, it's taka also to sit only in Ezes Yisrael and Ezes Kohanim, which is real avoda. But Ezes Nashim, which is not really avoda, has a kedusha like the Harabayas. And that's mutter zik. Rav Chizah, like Chizah said before, Beis, I'm a member of Beis, but as it's not, just talking about as it's not. Like Hachanam, as it's not, I'm talking about also as it's not, was mutter to sit down, and that's why he had to stand in Kabbalah Sefer Torah. Zok Gemara Vayter, that the Mishnah said that the Grifas he stood even though Meikar Adin he was allowed to sit during the Kriya. The Mishnah says Shebchu Chacham praise him for that. Zok Gemara Shebchu Mechlal the Shafar Avas. Mashma that Itaka did good that he was machmer. Shaila is Hamar Fakti Gemara Mar Vashi Filamada Amar Nasi Shemachal Kvoida Kvoida Machol Melech Shemachal Kvoida Ein Kvoida Machol. That a Melech cannot be Meichalos Kavash. And Nemar it says in Pasuk Devarim Parak Yizayim Pasuk Tesvav Soyim Tasam Alecha Melech. So it says a lot of different lashonis of Sima Soyim Tasam Alecha Melech. So we learn out Shetahei Masay Alecha that it's part of the chiv of the Malchus is that they should always make sure that there's Emas HaMelech on the and it should be a lot of covet. And even if the Melech's Machal Kvoide, and even the Melech himself has no right to Moich on his covet. So the Shaila is how is a Grifas Moich on his covet, and he was standing. The Chari should have sat. And for the Gemara, mitzvah shani, he's allowed to make on his covet for a mitzvah, because it's the covet Hashem. This whole kriya, this whole thing that he's doing. Zok Gemara Vayter, Kshegia lesucha loses, when he reached the pasuk sucha loses l'lacha eshanachi, the Mishnah said zalgu ein of the mois. They told him about the siyari grifas achinu ato. Zok Gemara Tanam Shmeider Rav Nasan, learned the name of Nasan. But Oisha at that time that they said achinu ato and Eschai was saying to Yisrael Kalaya. There were certain people that were chayiv kalaya, shechnifaloi like grifas, because they chav a grifas. That although his mother was from Yisrael, but still Malchi wasn't royal. He's still a Maisi, he wasn't royal Malchus. So Gemara, why? Because he's a descendant of Hordis, which is the Eved, and it doesn't pass to have a descendant of an Eved for a Malchus. Says Dr. Gemara, from the day that it became overpowered the grip of Chanufa, and people started being confident one another. Nisavsu hadinin. The Dayanim weren't paskin anymore well because everyone was confident another. And it's kalkol maisim, and everybody's actions were becoming a skalkol because people didn't want to make it over there because they were busy with Chanupa. And people couldn't tell others, people wouldn't tell each other that Maiseh Gedol in Masecha. I mean, there's no such a thing or one such a mostly of right and wrong because people weren't correcting each other. Everybody was just copying each other. So Gemara Darsha Yidam Arabi Tam Rishim Pazi Mutal Hachna Varsham Bailam Haza. You're allowed to machna for Sham and Elam Haza. that they shouldn't do bad to us. Shenemar, it says the pasuk Yishai, Parak Lamed Beis, pasuk Hey, because la'asa love it says la'ikara oid la'naval nadiv v'la'chilai la'ya'amar shaya. Because chanupa, b'chlal the realm haza shari is mashal realm haza, chanupa is mutar al tira. Because the pasuk is only saying Yishai Lamed Beis Hey that la'ikara oid la'naval is going on talking about la'asa lava, that there won't be any sort of chanufa. Mashal realm haza is mutar al tira. Zakim Maravaiter, B'Shem Malakish, Amar B'Shem Malakish says, this that it's mutter the machin for Hashem B'Elam Hazeh. Mahacha, I've learned that from here, because Yaakov told Esau, Bereshis Lam Gimel Pasuk Yud, Ki Al Kain Reisi Panecha Kareis Panei Lekim At Tzeinim. So you see that he was machin for him, that he showed him, he made him feel chashiv, Kareis Panei Malach, because he said Kareis Panei Lekim. Zakti Gemara. The Pliga Dirab Levi. This member of Shimon Lakish said is arguing on Rabbi Levi that says that he wasn't coming to the Machin, rather he's coming to scare him, to tell him his Ragol and Rias Malachim, and that he should stay away from him. And he wanted to scare Esav. Rabbi Levi, Mashal Yaakov Esav, the words of Yaakov to Esav, Lamad David, what to compare to? La'adam Shizim es Chavir, somebody invites his friend to his house, V'hikr boy Lahargoi, and the guest realizes that the Baal Bayis wants to kill him. Amar Loi, so the guest tells him, Tam Tafshal Zeh Shani Tayim Katash Tam Visa Melech. He tells him the taste of this tafshal that you're feeding me tastes similar to the one in the Beis HaMelech. So he's trying to let him know that he's Karv L'Malchus, and if something happens, the Malchus is going to take the Nekam of him. Amar, so Abayis tells himself in his heart, the other Malchus guy must know the king, or Mistafi like Katalim, and maybe he gets scared of him and he doesn't kill him. So that's what it's similar. Yaakov is trying to tell Esav that he's familiar with Malachim and he should be careful rather. Zakti Gemara, the Gemara brings a memory from Elazar in the Chaymer Isser Chanufa. Amar Elazar, Kolam Shish Bechanuba, maybe Af Loila. Anybody has Chanuba brings Kas of Hashem to the world. Shenemar says a pasuk in Eve, Perak Lamavav, pasuk in Gimel, V'chan Felev Yasimu Af. V'loy Oid, Al She'ein Tfilasoi Nishmas. The Tfilah of a Chaynif is not Nishmas. Shenemar Lo Yishavu Ki Asaram. It says in the Hemshech of the pasuk that even though though Hashem might hear their tefillas, although Hashem might save them from the tzaras, but Hashem won't really hear their tefillas. Zakimar Simin to the members of Rabbi Lazar, Af Uber Gehenim B'Yodei Nida Goylav. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Kolim Shish B'Chanupa, Afilu Ubar Shemei Imam Mekalinus, even fetuses in the mother's stomach, they curse him. Shenever says the pasuk in Mishlei Chavdal Perak Chavdal Pasuk Chavdal Omer LaRasha Tzadik Ata Yikareu Am Yizum L'Um. The Ein Koiv Ala Klala, because it says Shenemar, Bilam told Balak after Bilam told Balak Ma'akav Lekabi Kel. The Ein La'ayim Ela Ubar Shenemar in the Tshuva of Hashem to Rivka on the Tu'um there in the stomach. It says in Bereshis Perak Chafei Pasuk Chav Gimel La'ayim La'ayim Yamatz. So you see that also the Ubrim are Mekalvim. Amar Balaza, Kolim Shish B'Chanuva, Neifel Began, and false in the hand of Shenemar. It says, Pasuk in Yishai, Parakeh, Pasuk Chav, Hoy Ha'imrim L'Ra, Toiv L'Toiv Ra. So the Chanufim that say on Ra, on bad, that it's good, and on good that it's bad, Maksiv Acha, what does it say afterwards? It says in Pasuk Chav Daled, Yishai Elachin, Kechol, Kash L'Shoin, Eish V'Chashash L'Hav Yirpa. That just like fire eats straw, and a flame burns, so too the chanefim will burn ahead of him. Amar B'Lazar, Kol Machav Chaver Seif Nevel B'Yad. Somebody chav his friend, soon he will fall into his hands, and the person will not have sympathy on him. Ve'imenia Nevel B'Yad, then he falls B'Yad Banav. If Nevel B'Yad Banav, then he Nevel B'Yad Ben Benai. Shenemar, it says in Yimmer Parachav Ches Pasuk Hey Ruvav Vayemi Yirmel Chananya. Yirmel Tol Chananya Navi, and then it says Amin Kiyas Hashem Yakom Hashem Estorecha Sheni Beis Lahash Klei Beis Hashem Chalagoyim Vov Al Makom Hazeh. So since he wasn't So you see over there that it was considered that he spoke Lashon Chanufa, and we find that Yirmiyah was caught up in his grandson, his son's son, because it says in Yirmiyah Lamazai Pasuk Yom Yudal that when he went out of Yerushalayim to go to Eretz Binyamin to split his piece of land that fell with him Yerusha, and it says Vayihihu b'shar Binyamin v'sham Baal Pkudas v'shma Yura and Shloim v'Chananya. It was Chananya ben Azar, the Navi Shekar, Vayisvoi, says Yirmiyah Navi, Lamer al Kazim at Hanoifel, Vayomer Yirmiyah Shekar, and then Noifel al Kazim, and it says Vayishamayel, and it says Vayisvoi Yirmiyah, Vayivayo Asarim. So you see, he fell into Ben Benoy of Chananya, Alta Oynish, that he chamfed Chananya. Zok the Gemara, Amar Belazar says, Kol Eidish Bechanuva, any tzibah that is Chanuva, Meusa, is disgusted, Kenida, Lefnei Hashem. Shenemar, it says a passing in Eve, part as well, passing Lamadal, Ki Adas Choneif Galmud. And we darshim that a nation that has, tzibah that has Chanupa is Ki Galmud. What's a Galmud? Galmud is Nida. Shkebi Krachei Ayam, Kurla Nida Galmuda. That's what they call in Krachayim. That's what they call Nida. They call Galmuda. My Galmuda. Why is there Nida called Galmuda? Because Gemula Mevaila, she's separated from her husband. That's the lashon. Amar Laza Kol Edishish Bechanufa L'Seif Goyla goes to Golos and learn Exer Shava from Galmud. Ksiv Hachat says Lein Eda has Chanuva Kedas Chanev Galmud. Ksiv Hasam it says in Yishayim Tes Pas Chaval Famarta Avich Miyola Lias Elav Ani Shchul of Galmuda Goyla Vesura. And it says the word Goyla next to Galmuda in that pasuk in Yishayim. Chafal. So we dash in it. It has Chanufa. At the end, it's going to go to Gauls. Amar Yerba Arba Kita Savali Averis Ein Makablas Pnei Shchina. And what are they? Kat Leitzim, Kat Chanefim, Kat Shakronim, and Kat Masabre Lashon Hara. The Masabre Lashon Hara. And the Marsha says, why does it also count Bali Gaiva? Because we said before in Hamid Alv that Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't live with them. It says it's only counted Chatam that come al Yidei a Dibura. Gaiva is not necessarily a Dibura. But Leitzim, Chanefim, Kat Shakronim, Kat Masabre Lashon Hara, that's what it counts. Zakti Gemara, Kat Leitzim, how do you know? The Chesiv, it says Pasuk in Hishaya, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Hey, Mashach Yodes Leitzim, Hashem takes away his hands from Leitzim. Kat Chanefim, you learn at the Chesiv, Eiv, Perek Yudgim, Pasuk Zayin, Ki Loi Lefanav, Chanef Yaveh. It says that a Chanef doesn't come Lefnei Hashem. Kat Shakarim, you learn out it says Tehillim Parakafal Pasuk Zayin Doirish Garam Yikra Neged Oine Kam Saplosh and Haros. Learn out because it says in Tehillim Parakei Pasuk Kiluk Kel Chafes Resha Ato La Yigur Chara. We darshan that it's Tzaddik Ata Hashem because Hashem's a Tzaddik. Therefore, La Yagam Yigur Chara will not have in his dwellings a someone that's bad, which is somebody that's Mesaper Lashon Hara. So although it doesn't seem a foolish. Rashi Bavarans, although it doesn't say a force on the pasuk, it's going to somebody talks lashon hara, but because it says Viter in the Mizmor, pasuk Yud came b'fiyuna chayna, so you see it's going on something his mouth is not correct, which is lashon hara.